Now next to last of our accessories is our Deluxe wheel system, and this will allow you to move your lathe around the shop easily. And if you have a small shop like mine, this will allow you to move the lathe in and out of the way when you're not using it, and to pull it out in the shop when you're using it. Or for some of you wood turners that get out and do demonstrations, this will allow you to move your lathe around and over to different locations. Let's go ahead and open up the box and lay out the kit. Okay, we've got all the pieces in here. Let's go ahead and lift these out one by one, lay them out, and open up all the bags. Now we've taken all the pieces out of the box and we've laid them out across the bench. And this is the Deluxe wheel system in its standard configuration. This will be for a lathe that does not have the riser kit on it. Now if you have the riser kit installed on your lathe, you'll recall that we had a few extra brackets that are included in the riser kit. And because our lathe today has got the 3-inch riser kit on it, we're going to go through and use these pieces that are out of that kit. So let's go through and we'll start putting the pieces on the lathe. Now if your lathe is just in standard configuration, this small bracket will bolt right here to these holes that are just above the opening of the lathe. Now if you have the riser kit, you're going to install this bracket. This will bolt right here, and this will actually drop that bracket down. So let's go ahead and we'll put this on, and then we'll put our small extension bracket on. Now the first step is to install the small bracket onto the extension bracket. And you'll go through the slotted holes or the open holes in this bracket into the threaded holes of the extension bracket. With a number 4 Allen wrench, go ahead and tighten down the screws. And that will secure these two brackets together. Now we're ready to install this on the lathe. These will be through holes that will allow us to mount this right up onto the side of the lathe. Now using the extra screws that came with the riser kit, we'll put those through and bring this up to the lathe. Just get this one started. And get those snug down nice and tight. And that's where our shock absorber bracket is going to mount. Now using the bolts with the lock washers that were supplied with the riser kit, we'll go through and install the large bracket here, and these are going to take a number 8 Allen wrench. I'm going to start these by hand and we'll secure these down. Now for the side brackets, there are left and right brackets, and you're going to match them up just like this. This will be one pair, this will be the next pair. You could not have these installed like this. So what we want to do is just make sure that you keep these in the proper orientation. This will be for one end of the lathe. I'm going to carry these down and set these out and get them ready to go. Now we've got our brackets set to the side right now. We've got our Deluxe wheel system here in place. The first thing I'm going to do is take the gas strut and hook it up here. And there's a simple bolt with a lock nut on this one, and this can go through from either side. We'll rotate this, pull it up in place, thread it through the bracket, through the gas strut, and then get your nuts secured here. And I'm going to leave that loose for the time being. I'll come back and tighten that up in a moment. The next step is to take this large bracket and we're going to bolt this into the 4 bolt holes that are here on the side of the extension bracket. If you don't have the riser block, you will not have this bracket, and this plate will bolt directly to the lathe right here. And with the bracket loose, I'm going to go through and install the bolt through and get it ready to start. I'll lift it in place and use a number 8 Allen wrench to secure it to the lathe. While this kit is still loose, you can move it around a little bit, and this will allow you for a little bit better position of the plate, so you don't have to fight the bolts in. Now you'll find that these bolts in here really do well if you have one of these ball nose Allen wrenches, and you can get these at the local home stores, and it makes it really easy to install these. There's a little bit of angle that goes on. Once you've got it on, go ahead and use the short side and snug these up. Now that we've got our bracket installed and the Deluxe wheel system fastened to the frame, let's go ahead and snug down our pivot bolt here. And this is for our gas strut. So we're going to lay out 4 of our long bolts right here, and these are the bolts that come with the Deluxe wheel system. We're going to take our bracket, and the bracket is going to be installed, if you're in standard configuration, right into the leg of the lathe. If you have the extension kit, the 3-inch riser block on it, we're going to extend these holes and use the bottom set of holes, and it'll bolt in like this. This is going to protrude out, and this is going to allow the end of the wheel system to slide in here. The machine surface is going to go toward the axle of the wheel system, and you might have to move this around a little bit or install this over the end of the axle assembly to get some leverage and twist it to allow you to position this in place. And this should all line up and get in place here. We'll run the bolts through here. If you need to raise and lower the wheels a little bit as you're doing this, go ahead and do that. Sometimes you'll find it'll be easy to start one bolt here while it's kind of at an angle, and I'm going to start lining up the shaft over here. And then once I get one of them in to where it's finger tight, then I can raise and lower the bracket a little bit by manipulating the wheel system on the opposite end. And finally, we're going to snug down these bolts. Get an Allen wrench that has some leverage on it. These are number 8s. They're big bolts going through a cast iron bracket into a cast leg, so you really want to go ahead and cinch these down nicely. Now, in order to get these brackets to fit on here easily, you may have to really raise up on this quite a bit here and compress the gas strut, and that'll allow this to raise up and allow you to rotate that front bracket in. Once you've got one bracket done, the other one should be much easier to install. So we'll install this here, and again with our slot right over the tab on the end of the axle. We'll make sure that's in alignment, and then we'll run our bolts in place over here. Now, before you've got everything locked in place, make sure that you've got this axle captured right in the slots here. I've got that one in there. The front one's in place. Now I can put my remaining bolts in. Now we've got one end of the Deluxe wheel system installed on the lathe, and you can see how secure it is. It's beefy and it's heavy duty, and it matches a lathe of this size. Now you'll see that the foot pedal has got a little tab on the bottom to lift it up and retract the wheels, and then it's got one on top that you can step down on. And that uses an over-the-center cam action to lock it in place and to engage the wheels. Now the wheels have heavy-duty bearings. Let's go ahead and repeat the process on the other end. Now you may find that it's easier to install this big bracket right here while it's still on the bench. And I wanted to point out there are short bolts that come with the riser kit, and there are long bolts that come with the Deluxe wheel system. Make sure that you're using the short bolts going through the bracket here so these don't bottom out against the leg. And another one of the short bolts in here. Now we've got the bracket installed for the riser kit on this one, and again, if you're not using the 3-inch riser block, you will not have this bracket. And when you use the short bolts, you notice that they should be flush and not protruding out the backside. Now let's go ahead and we'll use our long bolts, and we'll bolt this onto the lathe just like the other side. And the first step I'll do here is I'll hang the gas strut in place. This helps to make it very easy to raise and lower your lathe onto and off the wheels. I'll start that nut, and we'll come back and tighten that in just a moment here, but that will keep it out of the way. Now let's go through and get our long bolts and put them through into the leg of the lathe. And I'll get this one in so it's hanging well. All right, I'll leave that a little bit loose, and let me start 3 more. And our last bolt going in right now. We'll get this secured in place. All right, and just make sure these are all locked in place real good and cinched down. This is really one of the nicest wheel kits that I've ever seen here. This Deluxe wheel system has got non-marking tires on the wheels. It's got nice large size bearings and very heavy duty solid components. Get our brackets in place. Get our bolts ready. And I like to line this slot up with the wheels first. This gives me a little bit of leverage to rotate the bracket and to start compressing the gas strut. Now that you get this slid in place, you can slide this up and down to get your bolt started. Now that I've got these started, I'm going to go ahead and run them home. Now that we've got the Deluxe wheel system on here, we can simply step down and use the over-the-center cam action to lock this wheel down. We'll step aside to the other side of the lathe here and lock this one down. And now we can move our lathe around the shop.